Hey there everybody, it's Lance with Love to Hate / Hard to Master, and on this channel we take a look at games that are hard to master, such as Legacy of You from Garphill Games and designer Shem Phillips. And this is a solo-only game, one player. And with this game, you are going to be you, the guy right here on the front of the box. And you have been tasked by the Emperor of China to take care of the flooding that has been taking over the area. And the riverbanks have been overflowing with water, and you need to help out the townsfolk that are living in the area by building off these canals to direct the water back to the ocean so that people don't drown. And this is based off of real events in history from long ago, but you're also going to have to be dealing with barbarians in addition to the giant wave of water that's trying to wash you out. So in this game, you are managing resources, you're battling against barbarians, and it's a little bit like tower defense, but you're also trying to stay ahead of the impending doom. Let me show you how this game works down below, and then I'll come back and share my thoughts on it. All right, I have Legacy of You on the table. Let me show you guys how this solo Legacy game works. Now, this game is solo, and it is Legacy, but you are not going to be tearing up any components or putting stickers on the board. This is fully resettable. It's a campaign, but the campaign changes based upon how you perform in the games prior to where you're at in the campaign. And it is a game in which you are going to be playing essentially a best of 13 series. And so really what that means is that you want to get to 7 wins before you get to 7 losses with this particular game. So what you have here with this game, you've got a central board that you're going to be doing pretty much all of the gameplay on. You've got lots of cards, lots of meeple houses and huts and buildings, a barge, a wave tide that is the impending doom in this game, and lots of other components which are housed in the insert with this particular game. And I'm going to tilt this up so that you can see that the insert is labeled where you're supposed to put certain cards and components with the game, and these pieces will stay in the box, and you'll keep that to the side as you play the game, and you'll collect the pieces that you need. So that's really cool. It really helps with setup and teardown for this game. Super easy to really get going in this game. So let me explain what you're trying to do with this game. So the idea, the theme of this game is that you are you, and that is why you. You are tasked by the Emperor to build the canal here and create canals off of this river to help with the flooding that is being caused here, represented by this wave right here. And to do that, you are going to need to advance your barge down the river here, trying to stay ahead of this wave. And there's certain things that you're going to do that are going to help you to do that, but you're also trying to manage the barbarians who are coming and attacking you, and so you have to watch out for that as well. Now, to start a turn, you're going to have a deck of cards. There's going to be 10 of these townsfolk that you are dealt at the beginning of the game, and the rest of the townsfolk are going to be in this deck up here, and they're going to come out at the top up here, and you're going to need to be trying to get those townsfolk to join your deck to help you in your mission. To start around, you are going to give yourself the resources that are printed down here on the bottom of the board. At the beginning of the game, that's going to be 4 cards from your deck of 10. You're also going to receive 1 white meeple, and each of these meeples have different names. The white one is a laborer, so you would grab that from the insert here. You're also going to receive a cowrie shell and a provision. You would receive additional cowrie shells if you've built out any of these. I believe these are houses. Each of these have different names. But you would receive more cowrie shells if you have these purple buildings out on the board. But that's essentially what you're going to get to start the game. And these cards are going to have different townsfolk on them, and they're going to provide you different resources, as denoted by what's up here in the top left. And you would just simply discard discard it to your discard pile, which is going to be right here, and you would gain whatever the resource is printed. So in this case, it would be a yellow worker, which is an archer, and you would take that from the supply and put it down here with all of your other resources. But you also have another option on your turn. You can get rid of that townsfolk to gain the resource that's printed up here on the top left and the resource that's printed underneath it in the red. So this would give me a red worker, which is a fighter, but it would also give me wood. And so I would put that up here to the left of this draw pile here, and I would gain the red worker and the wood. But the problem with doing that is that the cards that I put down here and I discard, those will eventually come back into my deck of cards that I'm using. The ones that I send up here will not. I'm losing that card. And this is also kind of my life, my hit points, my health points here. So I need cards in this deck, because when I run out of cards in this deck, you're going to advance the wave one space forward. And one of the ways that you can lose this game is if the wave ever catches up with the barge. So you need to advance the barge down the river and try to keep ahead of the wave. So you don't want to go through these cards too fast, because that's going to speed up how fast the wave moves. So I've already explained to you what you're doing primarily with these cards. Let me explain what you're doing with these different resources. You're going to be taking different actions, trying to put these buildings out here on squares where they're available. Obviously, this would take a white meeple, a brick, and a wood, whereas this spot right here, white worker, a brick, and 3 wood. This spot right here would take a white worker, 3 bricks, and 1 wood, and then I would get to put this little green building out on these spaces, and anytime there's a printed resource on a square like this one right here, I would gain that resource from the supply, and I could use that immediately. And in this instance, since I removed the building on this card right here, I would get to flip it over, and anytime you see a gold turtle with a number on it, that's going to tell you to read from the storybook. So as I mentioned, this is a legacy game. It's a narrative campaign game with lots of different entries in it, and you would read whatever entry, as you can see, there's different numbers here. You would read the entry, and it would tell you what's going to happen. There's a deck of cards 1 through 69 here, and a lot of times the storybook is going to have you draw certain cards from this deck and add them to other decks, add more barbarians, add more townsfolk, add more canal cards to the deck that you're playing with here. And so that's how the legacy aspect of this game comes through, is through the storybook and the different entries that you read throughout the course of the game. Other cards are going to give you more resources, such as this one would let you draw another card from your deck. Other times you would be able to draw cards from the townsfolk deck, which is great because that's an extra card in your deck of cards, and you get to use that card immediately, so that's a nice thing. But ultimately, what you really are trying to do in this game is you're trying to pay the cost on these cards up here. So in this instance, I need 2 white workers and 2 cowrie shells, and I would be able to advance my barge here beyond this particular card. And I would gain whatever is printed right here. So a brick, a wood, and I get to read the entry number 3 in the storybook. And then this card would go off the board. And it also opens up a trade option for me to do. You start the game with 2 possible trades where you can trade in 3 cowrie shells for a brick or a wood, which honestly, I don't know if I ever really do this too much because that's not a great trade. But as you advance down the river here, you do get some trades that are valuable, such as 2 cowrie shells for a provision. Now, you can only advance this barge 1 time per round, and the back of the rulebook is not only your iconography guide and player aid here, but it also reminds you that you can put the barge right here, because you can only do the barge action once, and then at the end of the round you return it back to the board wherever your next card is, and again, you want to stay ahead of that wave right there. So that's the main idea of what you're trying to do in this game. But some of the ways you can lose, as I mentioned, if the wave ever catches you, you've lost. But another thing that you're doing is you're dealing with these barbarians. Now, there's always going to be 1 out here, but as you advance down the river, they're going to, and they're denoted right here, these little bars right here show you what's underneath the card. card, this icon is going to tell you that you're going to have another barbarian come out. So when you get to this point, you'll have 2 barbarians that are going to be showing up in this row every round. And what these barbarians are going to do, they're going to require you to use a number of your workers. You'll lose those workers. So I would need 2 black and 1 yellow workers to take care of this barbarian, but I would also need a number of provisions depending on how far on this line, down the line he's advanced. And if I'm able to pay those costs, then I gain whatever's printed right here in the top right. However, if at the end of the round I haven't taken care of him, then there is a penalty to pay. I either need to discard a card out of my deck, which is taking damage thematically. I'm losing Townfolk, and that's not good, because if you ever lose Townfolk and you don't have any in your draw pile or in your discard pile, you lose the game immediately. But that's also going to speed up how fast this wave is going to come down the line. So you really need to manage how many times you're discarding cards. Or you could get rid of a blue worker, which is your spearman. And you don't want to do that either. So you really want to take care of these barbarians, paying their costs, gaining their resources. When you do remove them, you just set them off to the side. And another action you can do is you can recruit these people up here at the top. Now, this one that's on the left is always free. There is no provision cost, and you can just immediately take that and put it into your discard pile, and you will get them into your deck when you have to reshuffle your deck. Alternatively, you could just send them straight to the discard pile up here, gaining the resource that's printed on it. Now, these other ones that are on the line here, they do cost provisions in order for you to collect them. Otherwise, they'll move down the line to the left at the end of the round, and you'd put out more townsfolk or more barbarians, depending on how far down the line you've gone. And that's the gist of the round. You're going to be spending these resources to take the different actions, which will ultimately give you more spots to put more workers or more places to build more buildings. But the main idea, again, is getting this barge all the way to the end. And if you're able to get all the way through this line here, having built all of these parts of the canal, and as you can see, the artwork here shows you how you're building these canals, and survive that round, because you're going to have to add 1 more barbarian in addition to the other 3 that you've already been putting out. If you survive that round, not letting this entire line up here fill up with barbarians, because if you ever have all barbarians at the top, you also lose the game, then you will win the game. And when you win the game, you get to take one of these cards right here, these blue cards, and they're going to have more entries for you to read in the book. And as you can see, you want to try to get through all of these. There's an ultimate one once you've gotten through 6, and if you win one more time, the 7th time, then you get to read what's on the back of this card, and that means you ultimately win the campaign. However, there are loss cards, and when you look at these loss cards, it's going to ask, did you lose because the wave caught you, or did you lose because of the barbarians flooded the top up here, or did they take your life points down to 0? And then you would read that entry. And if you lose too many times, then there's going to be an ultimate loss for the campaign. And the game is completely resettable. The story cards that I showed you earlier, they are going to have numbers on them down here showing you how to put them back in order so that you can reset this game and be able to play it over and over and over again. The rulebook does say that when you play the campaign, you only experience 40 to 60% of what the entire game has to offer. So you can play the campaign more than once and get to experience things that you did not experience the times before that you've played it. But that's the gist of how this game works. I won't really go into details as far as what the story cards add to it and how it changes up a bit, because I don't want to spoil anything, but that gives you a 90%, let's say, idea of how this game works. Now let's go back up top and I'll share my thoughts on this one. All right, so there you go. That's how you play Legacy of You. Now let me share with you my thoughts on this game. First, I'll start with the things that I really like about Legacy of You. The first being that this is a game that sort of feels like the tension is there from jump start. You really feel like you've got to manage your resources wisely if you want to beat this game. It is very challenging, especially at the beginning of the campaign, and other parts mixed into the campaign as well. You don't ever really feel like you have a solid grasp on this game, and you're overly confident going into it that you're going to win no matter what this game throws at you. I really felt like that Every high moment was immediately followed up with, whoa, okay, how do I handle this? A new twist, a new turn. Another thing that I really enjoy about this game is that the legacy aspect of it, the campaign aspect of it, kept me on my toes as I was experiencing this game and it's not just even every game, it's every card within the game can really throw a wrench into your plans. There are going to be some cards that help you out and give you boons and benefits and bonuses that you weren't expecting, and that is a really nice reprieve because you really have to manage your resources very carefully with this. So whenever you do get one of those cards, man, it is like manna from heaven. But then you're going to also have some negative cards that are going to just really, like I said, throw a wrench into your plans, and you'll have to find ways to overcome those obstacles, those roadblocks. And sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. And when you can't, it really feels like, man, I was set up for failure. And that'll be one thing I talk about in my cons. But when you are able to find ways to still overcome the obstacles that you weren't even expecting, that you weren't even really planning for, it really sort of rewards you. It makes you feel smart. It makes you feel like that no matter what happens, you are going to be able to overcome it. And I really enjoy that with this particular game. There were several moments where I felt like I could take on any kind of board game because of how smart this game made me feel, which I know is fool's gold in a sense because like I said, as soon as you hit that moment, the game is going to be right there to hit you with another obstacle, and your confidence is wavered. There's a lot of highs and a lot of lows with this game, and I really, really enjoy that aspect of it. Kept the game fresh, kept me on my toes, didn't know what to expect with this particular game, and not once in my, I think I've played this 15 times now, not once in my 15 times did I ever feel like this is samey, this is the same thing over and over again. In fact, as soon as I got done with a campaign, I was ready to start another one. When I was doing the rules overview of this for you guys in the segment before, I wanted to play another game. In fact, I did play another game. And so I just really, really had the energy to want to keep coming back to this time and time and time again. So this game has a lot of things that really make that happen for me. The insert that I showed you in the rules overview really helps out with the setup for this game, makes it very easy. Teardown is extremely easy. The fact that I can just keep a lot of the components in the box and pull them out as needed, keep a lot of the cards in the box nice and organized. That is something that I wish a lot of other games would do. Hope to see it in some future games. Really enjoyed that aspect of it. So there's a lot of things that make me want to keep coming back to this, keep pulling it off the shelf and hitting it on the table. So those are a lot of the things that I really do enjoy about this game. Now, there are a few things that I struggled with. The first being that I did lose my first 4 games with this game, and I was very close to just giving up on it because I really felt like this game is too hard. And the first 2, maybe even 3 games, I felt like you were set up to fail no matter what you did. I've kind of come off of that a little bit now that I have played it 15 times, now that I have restarted a campaign and gone back to the very first mission without any boons, without any positives. And I think that you definitely figure out strategies, figure out ways to get better in this game. So that's another pro. So I don't know that I would say that you are set up to fail your first couple of scenarios with this particular game, but I do think it's pretty darn close. It is a very challenging game, and so if you're somebody that doesn't like solo or even cooperative gaming, not that this is a cooperative game, but if you're somebody who doesn't like those cooperative games that are very challenging, very difficult, where you feel like you don't know if you're ever going to figure out a way to beat the game, then you're going to really struggle maybe the first 2, 3, 4 scenarios with this game. But I promise you that that you won't experience, say, 7 straight defeats, unless if you're just really bad. And I apologize if there's somebody out there who's watching this that has lost 7 straight times and they're just like screaming at me right now. But I don't think that's going to be the case for a large majority of people. You will get to a point where you are able to figure out ways to beat this game. And so I don't know that I would say that it sets you up with failure, but it does make it pretty darn close. So that's one con that I might have with this particular game. Another con is just simply for the fact that it is a solo-only game. It is such a wonderful experience that I would like to share it with somebody else, and I feel like there could have been ways to make this game a cooperative experience. Maybe multiple people having multiple hands of cards, and they have to use their particular cards, or maybe you can pass a card to somebody else. I think there could have been a way to make it multiplayer, but they just didn't. And I understand that there needs to be a market for solo-only games, and man, does this maybe hit the very top of that market. But I would have liked to have seen a way to try and make this game be multiplayer. That would have been nice. Another facet to this game, making it even more accessible, hitting the table more often. That's a minor quib that I have with it. But another maybe very small detail to this game too, like I said, I've played it 15 times. The box does say 60 minutes on it, and I feel like I've gotten to where I can really speed through a lot of my turns, but I don't know that I've ever really gotten close to that 60-minute mark. I think the closest I've ever gotten to it was 80 minutes, and so I don't know that I fully agree with the 60-minute mark on it. And again, that's a minor thing. You just, when you see it on a box and you see that it says 60 minutes, you expect, okay, it's going to be close to that. And I understand that, first couple times through, there's going to be learning curves and needing to go back to the rule book. But like I said, I'm speeding through this game 15 times after now, and I'm still not getting close to that 60 minutes. So I question whether or not that's super accurate or not. But anyhow, those are just very small quibs that I have with this particular game. Everything else is A plus with this particular game. Some other things I didn't mention: production value is top notch with this. The illustration's top notch. The writing is fantastic with the storybook, the twists and turns that happen with that. Characters that keep coming back into the story, new characters that are just, really that really shake the story up, add a lot to it. Really enjoy that aspect of it. I would really like to see this engine of the game be used in other games going forward. This idea that you have a deck of cards that really can be added in and shake things up, and a storybook that references different aspects to those cards, bringing them back into the play in the game. And I'd like to see that with some other games. It's really inspired me. I've been dabbling a little bit in game design myself, and it's really kind of inspired me with some ideas of some games that I'd like to do going forward, and maybe incorporating some ideas from this. So I really, really, really enjoy that aspect of this game. For my final score for Legacy of You, it's going to be really high, because this is one of the best games I've played this year. May even be my favorite solo game at this particular point, just simply for the fact of how well everything is done with it. I'm going to give it a 9.2. Really, really, really enjoy it. The cons that I have for it, not huge issues at all. The pros that I have for it are really, really big for me. So this is the reason why it's so high for me. So 9.2 is where I'm coming at on Legacy of You. It is from designer Shem Phillips and publisher Garphill Games. Leave me some comments down below. Let me know what you think about Legacy You. If you've had a chance to try it, or if you've been meaning to try it, leave me some comments and I'll try to answer them when I get a chance. This is Love to Hate / Hard to Master. Love to Hate, where we try to help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers, and Hard to Master, where we take a look at games that are hard to master. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to be notified of all of our great new content. I'm Lance, and we'll catch you next time.